So, hello and welcome back yet again to another chapter of Johanna Spyri's Heidi, where I still don't think that Heidi has entirely gotten it through her mind that these people that she is now staying with kind of seem to want her to live there forever. She still thinks she's going back to the mountains, and I'm kind of assuming that eventually she will. I mean, personally, I think she and Clara should just go run away to the mountains together. Not sure how well someone who's wheelchair bound would do getting there, but the fresh air would probably be good for her. I don't know. I don't know what is going to be happening. I do know that Fräulein Rottenheimer is Rottenheimer, and I like the butler a whole lot. I also know that Clara's grandmama is coming, and poor Heidi has been instructed not to call her grandmama. I bet Heidi wins her over. I just get the feeling like, Heidi probably wins almost everyone over. She certainly seems to have won over Clara's father, which is good because he was sort of the deciding factor on whether she's kicked out. So maybe it would have been better if he didn't like her. Dilemmas. Anyway, I hope you guys are having a great day. I got one of my opals wrapped, and I would bring it way closer so that you could see it. It doesn't have a lot of fire, but it does have some gorgeous markings in the matrix stone. And I took it to one of our local rock and gem shops, and they wrapped it for me. I have a couple more that I need to get wrapped eventually, but I was like, yes, I want to get this one wrapped because it's beautiful and I love it. And the lady who wrapped it is so incredibly talented. I should take the video camera in there just to show off some of the wire wrapping things she's done. There is a piece, a sculpture that she did that is for sale, and it's very expensive in her shop, but it's so worth it as far as the price. But it's a hippocampus. That's the half like seahorse looking thing, the head and front legs of a horse and the bottom back, not legs, tail of a fish, and it is so beautiful. I mean, it's not boulder opal, and it's way out of my price range, but oh my gosh, this woman is so talented. And honestly, if you see, you can see, what a good job she did wrapping. And she wraps the backside as well. So if it flips over accidentally, there's still a pretty design on the back, and there's nothing that pokes into your skin. Very cool. I've rambled about that enough. Uh, but before I stop rambling and get into the story, don't forget you have a couple days left if you would like to enter and potentially win the bag that is hanging up behind me. You just go to the video that is titled Raccoons and a Giveaway, and all you have to do is leave a comment, and you're entered to win the bag. So I hope somebody wins it. And, well, I know somebody will win it. I hope somebody who wants it wins it. And yeah, enough of all of this. It is time to jump back in and see what is going on in Heidi's world with Chapter 10. And Chapter 10 is titled A Grandmama. On the following evening, there were lively preparations in the Sussman house, and it was plain to be seen that everyone felt deep respect for the expected visitor. Sebastian had collected a great number of foodstuffs so that the lady might find one under her feet whenever she might sit down. Strike that. It was not foodstuffs, it was footstools. It would be really funny if she was sitting down on food. We'll try that again. Sebastian had collected a great number of footstools so the lady might find one under her feet whenever she might sit down. Fräulein Rottenheimer, very erect, went through the rooms inspecting everything. When the carriage rolled up to the door, Sebastian and Tinette rushed down the stairs. Fräulein Rottenheimer, in a very dignified way, followed more slowly. Heidi had been told that she must wait in her room until she was sent for, and she sat in a corner and repeated what she was supposed to say to Frau Sessman. All the grown people that she knew were called Frau or Herr, with their name following, but she had not dared ask Fraulein Rottenheimer for an explanation about the strange manner that she was supposed to address Grandmama. Heidi did not have long to wait before Tinette thrust her head in at the door and told her to go to the library. As she walked into the room, the Grandmama called in a friendly voice, "Ah, here is the child. Come and let me look at you." Heidi went to her and said in a clear voice, "How do you do, Frau Gracious Lady?" The Grandmama laughed. "Is that what you say at home? Did you hear that in the Alps?" "No, no one among us has that name," said Heidi. "Neither does anyone here," said the Grandmama, and she patted Heidi on the cheek. "In the nursery, I am Grandmama, and that is what you will call me. You can remember that, can't you?" "Yes, I can," said Heidi. "I always called you that before." The Grandmama looked so kind that Heidi felt quite at ease. She had beautiful white hair and wore a lovely lace frill around her head. Two broad strings fluttered from her cap, moving continually as though blown by the breeze, and to Heidi this seemed very strange. "And what is your name, dear child?" said Grandmama. "My name is only Heidi, but if anyone wants to call me Adelheid, I pay attention," said Heidi promptly, just as Fräulein Rottenheimer came into the room. "Frau Sessman will doubtless admit," broke in Fräulein Rottenheimer, "that I had to choose a name which could be pronounced without so much difficulty." "Oh, my dear Rottenheimer," said Frau Sessman, "if a person is named Heidi and is used to the name, that is what I will call her." Fräulein Rottenheimer was troubled because the old lady always called her by only her last name without any prefix, but Grandmama usually had her own way, and there was nothing she could do about it. The next day, while Clara was taking her usual after-dinner nap, Frau Sessman knocked on Fräulein Rottenheimer's door. "Where does Heidi stay at this time, and what does she do?" "She sits in her room, where she might busy herself with something useful, as if she had the slightest inclination to do anything," said Fräulein Rottenheimer. "Frau Sessman ought to know what absurd things this creature often plans." "I would do the same," said Frau Sessman, "if I had to sit alone the way this child does. Bring her to my room, please. I want to give her some pretty books I brought with me." "Well, that is just the trouble," said Fräulein Rottenheimer. "What can the child do with books? In all of this time, she has not even learned her ABCs. It's impossible to get a single idea into her head. Herr Kandidat can tell you that." "She doesn't look like a child who could not learn the alphabet," said Grandmama. "Now bring her to me. She can at least look at the pictures." Fräulein Rottenheimer was about to make another remark, but Grandmama had turned and was hurrying back to her own room. She was surprised to hear of Heidi's supposed stupidity and was determined to find out all about it. When Heidi came into the room, she opened her eyes wide at the sight of the pictures in the books on the table. The Grandmama picked up one of the books and was turning the pages when suddenly Heidi began to sob as though her heart would break. Frau Sessman looked closely at the picture that had caused the outburst. It was a beautiful green pasture where animals were feeding, and a shepherd leaning on a staff looked at the happy creatures. There, said the grandmama. I can see the picture makes you remember something you miss, and that it makes you sad. But there's a lovely story about the picture. There are other stories in the book that can be read and repeated. Now, dry your tears and we will have a little talk together. But it was a long time before Heidi could stop crying. The grandmama let her cry, just saying now and then, there, now you are going to be happy. Then finally, when Heidi had quieted, she said, now you must tell me something. How do you get along in the study hours with Herr Kandidat? Have you learned much? No, said Heidi, but I knew that it couldn't be learned. Why? Why could it not be learned, Heidi? What do you mean? People can't learn to read. It's too hard. What an idea! Where did you hear this? Peter told me. And he knows. He has to keep trying, but he can never learn. It's too hard. Well, Peter is a strange boy. But you see, Heidi, you must not always take for granted what he tells you. You have to try for yourself. It's no use, said Heidi. Listen, said Grandmama. You have not learned to read yet because you believed your friend Peter. Now you must believe me. And I tell you really and truly that you can learn to read in a short time, like a great many children who are like you and not Peter. You have seen the shepherd in the beautiful green pasture, and as soon as you can read, you can have the book for your own, so that you can learn his whole story, just as if someone told it to you. Wouldn't you like that, Heidi? Yes, said Heidi. If only I could learn to read now. And we have a picture. You'll learn. And it won't take long. I can see that already. But now we must look after Clara. Come, we will take the books with us. And Grandmama took Heidi by the hand, and they went into the library. Since the day when Heidi had wanted to go home, and Fräulein Rottenheimer had told her how naughty and ungrateful she was, a change had taken place in Heidi. She had the idea that she could not go home if she wished, the way her aunt had told her, but that she must stay in Frankfurt for a long time, maybe forever. She had also understood that Herr Sessman would think her ungrateful, and she imagined that Clara and her grandmama would think so too. Heidi didn't want to tell anyone that she was homesick. But inside her heart, the burden grew heavier and heavier. She could no longer eat, and every day grew a little paler. At night she often lay awake for a long time thinking of the Alm. When she finally fell to sleep, she would dream of the red pointed cliffs or of Fakness and the fiery snowfield of Kasplana. In the morning she would awake full of joy, ready to run out of the hut, when suddenly she would remember she was in Frankfurt. Then she would bury her head in the pillow and weep softly so that no one could hear. But Heidi's unhappiness did not escape the grandmother's notice. Often, early in the morning, she could see the child had been crying, and one day she called her into her room. "Tell me, Heidi, what is the matter?" she said. "Is something grieving you?" But Heidi did not want to seem ungrateful, for fear the grandmama might no longer be friendly. "I can't tell you," she said. "No? Can you not tell Clara?" "I can't tell anybody," said Heidi, looking so unhappy that Grandmama pitied her. "Come, my child, I want to tell you something. When we have a sorrow we cannot tell anybody, then we tell the ones in heaven and ask for help. You pray every night to the people in heaven, don't you?" "No," said Heidi. "Have you never prayed? Do you not know what it is?" "I used to pray with the very first grandmama, but it's so long ago I forgot." "Well, you see, Heidi, the reason you are sad is because you know no one can help you. Just think what a good thing it is that when you're troubled, you can tell someone everything." A happy light came into Heidi's eyes. "Really?" "Everything, Heidi. You can tell the people in heaven everything." The child drew her hand out of the grandmama's and said, "May I go?" "Certainly," came the reply. And Heidi ran to her room and sat down on a footstool. She folded her hands and prayed and asked God to let her go home to her grandfather. About a week later, Herr Kandidat asked to see Frau Sessman, since he wished to talk with her about something important. "My dear Herr Kandidat, I'm glad to see you," said Grandmama. "Tell me what brings you here." "Gracious madam," began Herr Kandidat, "something has happened that I no longer expected. Anyone who could have seen what went before would have decided that what actually happened was impossible." "Has Heidi learned to read?" said Frau Sessman. Herr Kandidat looked at the lady in speechless amazement. "It's really wonderful," he finally said, "that the little girl, after all of my explanations, still could not learn her ABCs, and then learn to read almost overnight. Equally, almost as wonderful, is your perception and straightaway suspecting that this most improbable thing was the truth." "Very many wonderful things can happen in the course of your life," said Frau Sussman, smiling in satisfaction. "Zeal in learning never does any harm, Herr Kandidat. Let us rejoice that the child has done so well and hope for good progress." Then she accompanied the teacher into the library to reassure herself that the news was true, and it was. There was Heidi reading a story to Clara and, with growing eagerness, pushing into the new world that was opening to her. People suddenly became alive and stepped out of the letters and took part in wonderful stories. That night, as they were sitting down to the table, Heidi found the large book with the beautiful pictures by her plate and looked at the grandmama. "Yes, it belongs to you," said grandmama. "For always? Even when I go home?" said Heidi. "Certainly for always," said grandmama. "And tomorrow we will begin to read it." But you're not going home. Not for a good many years, Heidi," said Clara. "If grandmama goes away, you have to stay with me." Before she went to sleep, Heidi had to look at her beautiful book in her own room, and from that day she liked nothing better than to read over and over all of the stories belonging to the lovely pictures. In the evening, Grandmama would say, "Now Heidi will read to us," which delighted the child, for the stories seemed even more beautiful when she read them out loud, and the grandmama explained anything she didn't understand. Heidi especially liked to look at the picture of the shepherd in the pasture. Another picture in the same story showed him after he had run away from his father's house and was obliged to tend the swine and had nothing but husks to eat. And then there was a third picture, and in this one, the penitent son, ragged and wasted away, was coming home, and his father was running to welcome him. This was Heidi's favorite story, and she read it over and over and never became tired of hearing the explanations that Grandmama gave to it. And that is the end of the story. Ah, Heidi. She still thinks she's going home. I mean, she is starting to at least get an inkling that they don't want her to go, but yeah. I do like that explanation about reading, though, because it is true. Reading opens up whole different worlds, and it's wonderful, and probably one of the favorite things that I ever learned to do in my life. I don't actually remember learning to read, though. It was evidently so long ago that I remember nothing other than knowing how to read, which did get me in trouble quite often in my life. You wouldn't think that reading books could get you in trouble, but it can. Anyway, thank you so much. Please do enter if you would like to win this tote bag. I unfortunately am only giving away one this time because that's all I have done, but it's just my little way of saying thank you, which I try and remember to do every time at the end of the video. So thank you so much. Please do hit the thumbs up if you don't mind. It does always make me smile. And I'll see you next time.